Everybody, Mr. Brown here with the Choose Well Program podcast. And today, we're talking about jobs. Yes, jobs. I've had a lot of jobs in my life. My very first one was removing graffiti from garages. We were part of a graffiti removal crew. We would drive around in a van with our boss and find graffiti in alleyways on people's garages, and we would paint over them, right? And he was a professional painter, so he had his prime and all kinds of stuff. Then I sold candy at a candy store. I worked for a newspaper company. I was a driver for them. I had so many jobs over the years. But in our conversation today with Dr. Terri Daniels, we're going to talk about the most important job I've ever had, and maybe the most important job you've ever had. Yeah, parenting. Being a parent, and I'll say it in the podcast, is one of the most difficult jobs there is out there, but it's also one of the most rewarding jobs we can have. I work with kids most of my life, worked in day camps, after-school programs, all kind of things. I was a mentor, and those were fun, and they are fun. But I get to send those kids home to their parents. Like, okay, hung out long enough, peace. But with your own, you're with them all the time. And that's a good thing, and it's also a challenging thing. But I love my kids, all of them, and I think as parents, we have to have the right perspective when it comes to raising our kids. And when we talk about in this podcast, when we talk about this, that real parents aren't perfect, and perfect parents aren't real. So join the crowd of the imperfect parent as we talk about parenting, or the most important job you will ever have, and that's parenting, in this edition of the Choose Well Program podcast. I'm really excited finally to sit down with you. We've had a lot of talks about a lot of things.
Yes, we have.
How many years have we known each other?
I think it's about 13.
13?
Maybe 13 years.
We worked together for quite a while, and I've always appreciated what you do. And you've had a lot of job titles. But today I want to talk about this topic, and maybe we'll get to learn more about Dr. Daniels. When I met you, you weren't Dr.
No,
Daniels.
I was not.
But talk about this one topic, the most important job you will ever have. Now, you've had a lot of jobs.
Yes,
but
I have.
You say the most important job you've ever had was what?
I would say my most important job is being a parent, for sure.
You've been, what, principal, superintendent, preschool, teacher?
Yes, I've taught all the way from preschool all the way up through college. So I've taught many years, 37 years. Sounds long.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really not that old if you see me, but 37 years in education. Mm-hmm. And I've gone from teaching to administration. And as you said, I was a vice principal, and superintendent. And but the main job is being a parent. Being a parent, most important. And I agree with you. Like, I think parenting is one of the most difficult jobs there is, but one of the most rewarding as well. So as we talk about this most important job, I'm going to give you a quote, and I want to know what your thoughts are about it. We continue to talk more about the most important job. I heard a quote the other day. It said, real parents aren't perfect, and perfect parents aren't real. Very cool. And it's absolutely true, I would say. And I don't think it ever really ends. My 3 kids are grown now, 35, 32, 27. And I think you just continue on. It just evolves. The problems maybe you face or deal with as they're growing up just change. But I don't know. I would say there is not a perfect parent. And what was the first part of that? That real parents aren't perfect. That's true. Perfect parents aren't real. Right. So and I think the struggle is we all typically want to be the perfect parent. We have this idea in our mind of what the perfect parent would be, but then we always fight up against that fake Instagram, Facebook ideal of what a perfect parent would be, and that's not real. And so from your years of experience, as a principal working with parents and parents yourself, you said the most important job, what I don't know if we can say one, there's probably a ton of things you could tell parents about this driving, that understanding that's the most important job. And then 2, because you have some that try so hard and they want to be perfect, but you have some that don't think they really matter, especially when the kids get around teenage years. They think that's true. So let's talk about those 2, the idea that the one who's striving to be perfect and the one who's kind of starting to peel back or draw back because they're teenagers. They're dealing with teenagers. So I think what happens, and I've seen this both as a parent and in my professional life, is as the children get older, their job is to become more independent. And as a parent, we want that. We want our kids to be healthy individuals, being able to be successful and
good citizens and be able to take care of themselves. But at the same time, parents tend to want to tell their kids how it's going to be, and the kids' natural reaction is to fight that. They have to find out on their own. So I think the best thing that parents can do is to provide guidance and allow their kids to experience things, be there to pick them up when they fall, but we have to let them fall.
So why do you think it's so hard for us to let them fail? So, they need to make some choices of their own, and I think our job is equipped not to live for them. I think I feel that too. I want to make my kid do it and just do it the right way, but they never learn. So we have to equip them to make those choices themselves. Like I say, when you make better choices,
you'll live a better life.
So choose well.
Oh yeah.
So we want them to choose well, but we struggle with this idea of equipping and letting go and actually grabbing and doing it or making them do it themselves. So how would you say it's important? What are some ways or some areas? Because I believe this, by the time they're in junior high school, they should be making some choices of their own, and so they can fail at home and you can help them.
This is true, but they're also going to fail out in society, and we have to be there for them to help them through that when they feel that sense of failing, when they feel like they've made mistakes. And it's okay to acknowledge that with them. Parents should acknowledge to their students.
Their kids.
Sorry. That
they're your students.
They're my students. That's really bad.
And the truth is, they're their students too. They're going to school. So it makes sense.
Yeah,
either
to
way.
Their children. You can tell I just deal with students and my own kids and grandkids now. That we have to let them fail, but we have to let them know that we fail too. And I think that's been one of the most profound things to me, is having conversations with my adult children and be able to look back and talk honestly about the mistakes I made with raising them, and how they see what I did to help them be strong individuals. Right. So it's hard. We want to protect our kids. That's a natural instinct.
I did a podcast way back when, and it had this title. Our subtitle for the podcast was "Helping to Love, Lead, and Launch Your Kids." To love your kids, to lead them and launch them. And so we're talking about the idea of leading them and not doing it for them, to equipping them of doing some things. Because our tendency is to love them so much that we do that for them. We don't want to make them fail. And I'll be honest, I don't know if you've seen this, but sometimes I feel that unwillingness to see them fail is based on our reputation and not what's best for the kid. Like, we're concerned that how other people look at us if my kid did X, Y, or Z.
I think that's really prevalent in our society, and I see it with parents all the time, that they see it as a reflection of themselves if their kids don't get into the honors classes, if they don't make the right choices. And really, in my profession as a principal, administrator, helping students to become good individuals, choice makers, etc., is parents back off a little bit. It's right. Okay. It's okay. Your kids will appreciate it in the long run. And they may make mistakes. They will make mistakes. But let them know that you're there for them when they do. I see so many students who are afraid to make mistakes because they are afraid of what their parents are going to think of them. Do you know how sad that is to me? Makes me very sad, because again, there are no perfect parents. There are no perfect children.
Right. And I often joke, your kids won't be perfect because you messed up. They came from you, so they're going to make mistakes. And I get the tension, because we do want to put our best foot forward. I think I was in a grocery store somewhere, and I heard this parent. She was kind of scolding her kid. She's like, "You're embarrassing me." And he was like, "You're embarrassing me."
And you know what, parents, that's our job. That's the best part, is when you get your kids to that point where, you know what, you're right.
Right.
I'm going to embarrass you a little bit here.
And I thought it was interesting, because it seemed like the mom wasn't concerned about what was right for the kid in the moment, his behavior. It was more about her. It was more about the fact that you're making me look bad in front of these people versus saying, hey, I don't care who's around. What do we do to do the best situation for you? So if you're doing something wrong, I'm going to call you on no matter where we are. You need to behave, not because of how it makes me look, because you need to behave or whatever the situation be. And I think sometimes, as you talked about the honor student, all that kind of stuff, what's best for the child? Because I've been reading statistics about how this anxiety and depression these teenagers are dealing with. And it would be sad if, as a parent, we were the source of a lot of it.
Oh, and I would say in my studies, and just to let the audience know out there, this is where my research is in parenting. And part of that is because when I became an administrator, I had taught for 25 years before I went into administration. And one of the things that I was not prepared for, and they don't really prepare, in my opinion, administrators for, is how much we're going to help parents know how to parent and get them through those difficult situations with kids, whether it be academically, behaviorally, emotionally. And a lot of the anxiety is placed upon their kids from the parents.
Do you saw that in elementary school as well and middle school?
Yes, I have. I've seen it. And I think a lot of it is in our society, for better or worse, not trying to make parents feel bad about what they're doing, and that's not my cause at all, is just to have a little reflection on, are you contributing to that? And is it really about your child, or is it about yourself and how it looks to other people?
What advice, because we don't want to beat parents up. We want them to, maybe do some, to monitor themselves and manage some of their behavior to help their kids, basically, or to, like I said, love, lead, and launch. We'll do an episode about that later. But what would you give parents? It is the most important job. So what can you do? What should they be doing to help their kids and not hurt their kids, even though they don't know they're hurting their kids?
I would say, first of all, just reflect. Parents, reflect on what you're doing, what you're modeling, what you're saying, because all of that is a role model for your kids. And your kids, whether you realize it or not, are watching, are listening, and are observing. Don't think you have to be the child's friend. And I know that comes up a lot.
That's another episode.
That's a whole nother episode. Seriously, your kids are going to get mad at you. You're going to make choices and decisions that they don't like. And that's okay. That's your job as a parent. Because that's where you know what is better for them, what you think you need them or want them to do. You need to help them by setting those boundaries. They may come back. They may say things that you don't want to hear out of their mouths that are hurtful towards you. But your job is, again, to guide them, to lead them. And later on, they'll come back and thank you for it. Because really, it builds respect. Your children will respect you later on more if you guide them. You don't have to be their friend. That's not your job as a parent.
Right.
They have friends. You have friends.
You can be friendly and nice, but
yes.
But friends are different. That you just see me as your leader, as your parent, who's going to make some tough choices for you because I'm your parent.
Well, here's what I always say, Mr. Brown. I say the kid's job is to push the boundaries. They're trying to grow. They're trying to express themselves, learn in a safe environment, right? Our job is to set those boundaries, because if we don't set them, they're going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing until they reach that limit. We see a lot of times in society where people push so hard and possibly those limits weren't set. And so then they end up making those not so great choices. Let them make choices, set the boundaries, they'll push them, but you're there to hold firm when they do.
All right. I was trying to think of an analogy for that, and this may not be perfect, but I remember growing up in my neighborhood, they would plant these new trees, and they would plant them, and they would put these two little posts next to them to help them grow in the right direction. Because I don't know how it worked, because I thought, how does this work with a pole and a tree? And I guess they didn't want the tree to grow one crooked way the other way, but it would grow up. So are you saying, like, our job as parents is to help them grow, not to keep them down, but set the boundaries in place so they can grow and fulfill their purpose and who they're going to be individually, but but not just let them just go, but kind of guide them. I'm trying to get that.
I think that's great. I was thinking of an analogy too, and just thinking about when you plant flowers, right? You give them water, they need sunshine. You give them what they need, but you allow them to grow.
Right. You give them space to grow.
Give them space. And there may be some weeds in there that you have to pull out. And, like that tree with the boards, the posts on either side. Called.
Somebody out there's telling me I'm wrong because somebody in the agriculture world.
That's
what do they call? What do people call the plant trees? Arborists, right? Arborists?
Yes,
I know a big word, Joe.
Yeah, you did good. You did good. So what happens when that tree kind of starts to grow a little crooked or not? Maybe they have to reset the posts. Maybe they have to adjust those type of things. But you don't give up, and you don't just say, "Oh well, it wants to grow that way. Let's take down the posts and let them go wild."
And that's the problem I have with some parents. Like, you just let them go. Like, you're letting an 8-year-old make all the choices for their lives, and they're 8 years old. Like, they don't have the capacity to do that.
Well, and that's when they keep pushing those boundaries because they want them, whether or not they don't actually think they want them.
Yeah.
But if you don't put them down, I'll tell you, all 3 of my kids have come back and said this at a different time.
I want the story about your kids, but I was waiting for you to offer it. Like, I want to hear a story about one of these kids.
But my daughter, I have 2 boys and a girl in the middle. And she was the one that gave me my gray hair, I'll tell you, and she knows it too. But the most rewarding thing, this is why I believe parenting is your most important job. Not only are you raising human beings and who are going to go on and now are becoming parents of their own, but she came back to me and said, "Thank you, Mom. You know what? I had to make some hard choices with her. I had to put down those boundaries." And
she didn't like it, but...
Well, there was a time I told her she had to get out of the house. She wasn't making good choices. Hardest thing I ever did as a parent. Tough love. You call it tough love, right?
Right.
And I said, you can't live here anymore if you're going to be doing that. She's come back now. She's a mother of 3 boys herself. And come back and said, "Mom, that was the best thing you ever did for me."
Wow. You hear that, parents? That's the best thing.
That's the best thing you ever did for me.
How long was she gone?
Well, she never did move back in because she was an adult. And she was gone probably about 4 months before we talked. And that was a hard thing. But you know what? Again, we're super close now. So don't think that if your child gets mad at you, that means forever. Right.
And I think that's where you have to disconnect that personal feeling. Yes, I'm hurt, but I did the right thing. Yes, it doesn't feel good. I did the right thing. I remember a story of a pastor who his son had to have some special stuff done to his leg. I think he was bow-legged or something. He had to have a surgery, and he had to actually, in the part of the recovery was to have to sleep with this board in between his legs.
Oh, yeah.
And it would just hurt and hurt. And his son would just cry and cry and cry. And it hurt this father so bad because he wanted to help his kid. But the best way to help his kid was leave the boards there. And in the moment, it felt so tough and so hard. But you have to look at the long-term impact. Look at the long-term. The most loving thing for me to do for you in this moment is to do the best hard thing for you. And it's hard for us and it's hard for them. And now I kind of get when my parents said or grandparents said, "This is going to hurt me more than hurt you."
And it absolutely does. It's hard. It's not easy to be a parent. Yes. It was the most rewarding job. It's the most important job. It is the hardest job. And you never stop. It never goes away. It's not like a job where you can get off at 5 o'clock and go home and, kind of kick back and watch TV. You're still a parent.
Yeah, because mine still wake up in the middle of the night and call me several times a night. So.
Yep.
I think I called in the night at 9, and no, it's going on.
Well,
at
and
1,
you know what? All of a
3.
sudden, too, you're going to realize that doesn't happen anymore. All of a sudden, you'll just realize one day, like, they're not doing that anymore.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I know. Right now you can't, but you'll miss it. Mark my words, you'll miss it.
If I can get a full night's sleep, I don't know if I'll miss it.
Yeah. But you'll look back when they're older, and you look back and you miss those times.
Yeah.
You do.
If you had to sum it up today, we said the most important job you'll ever have is being a parent. Give me some last encouraging words to the parents, because we kind of beat them up a little bit. Not really.
And parents, that's not my intention at all. Parents do the best they can. I've never met a parent in 37 years of education that did not want the best for their child.
Right.
Parents do everything they do out of love. And what they want for their child is for their child to be successful and happy. And think about what that means for them. What is success? What is it that's going to make them happy? Having a relationship as adults with their parents is a really special thing. So you're trying to get your child to that level. You're trying to help them to grow, be safe, but give them the chance to make mistakes. You're there to catch them. You know, think of those things because they need to experience life. And no matter how much we try, they're going to experience it themselves. It's their journey.
Right, it's their journey.
We're on our journey. It's their journey. We're there to help them, you know, but we can't do it for them. And they don't want us to. They do not want us to.
So if I had to sum it up, I just thought of this, you know, the title is The Most Important Job You Ever Have. Never give up. Never give up.
Yeah.
Like when I was working with you at the school, at the elementary school, I choose to do my best and never give up is kind of what I want to tell the parents. I think that's the heart of what we're trying to communicate, that it is the toughest job. It's the most rewarding job. Do your best and never give up.